Okay, everybody, it's time for take 2 on this video. I am so sorry for what happened last night. So, apparently in the editing process of this video, somehow the audio just got trashed to shit. And what I ended up uploading to YouTube last night ended up being a video with nothing but static for the audio. So you couldn't hear a goddamn word I was saying. And it was a shame because, the video was about an hour long, all in one take. One long take, hour-long video. And the entire thing gets fucking lost. And I just couldn't save. I went back to the raw files and saw if I could save it. And it just didn't. Somewhere in the editing process, something went horribly wrong. So hopefully it works this time. I was in a really bad mood after it happened because I was like, fuck, I just wasted an hour for nothing. Motherfucker, this is fucking bullshit. Fuck this shit. I'm never going to make another video again. Fuck! And then I watched the Cowboys get demolished by the Bears, and that cheered me up considerably. So I'm in a much better mood now. Hopefully take 2 turns out at least as well. Hopefully better than part 1. And hopefully y'all like the video. We'll see. But again, I apologize for what happened last night. It was... Didn't like it. So, the point of this video, and the major bulk of this video, is going to be me previewing a bunch of upcoming wrestling shows from the various different companies. I'm in end of the year mode. It is December, and I'm mapping out what videos I'm going to be doing for the end of the year. Those of you who followed my channel for any length of time, you know that typically around Christmas time, I'll sign off. I'll sign off for the rest of 2019. It's like, all right, Christmas is in 3-4 days. I'm out of here, guys. See ya. I'll see you in the next year. And that's typically how I've done things. I think I've done that every year since I've been doing this. And next year is actually my 10th anniversary, which is fucking crazy that I've been doing this for that long. But it's, so that's typically how I do things. And I'm thinking about what videos and what I want to cover for the end of the year. You're going to get my final Star Wars review. That's a definite. You're going to get like an end of the year thing for wrestling. So like match of the year, show of the year, star of the year, that type of stuff. And there might be another review or something like that as well. But generally I'm in like wrap up mode right now. So I'm just looking to get everything over and done with and then move on, think ahead to 2020. But one thing I did want to do in case I didn't get a chance to talk about these shows, I did want to make sure that I previewed them at least. And then if I can't get around to a review this month, before the end of the year, before I sign off, I'll get to it in 2020, and I'll talk about these shows then. And some of these shows aren't even happening until 2020, so we'll see. But things like Wrestle Kingdom, I definitely wanted to get a preview out there before the show took place, and a few other shows as well. So, just wanted to do a long video discussing all of that. But before I jump into that, I need to do my top 10 matches for the month of November 2019. So let's jump right into it. Let's just blast right through these. Okay, number 10, James Storm versus Colt Cabana for the NWA National Championship from NWA Power, the November 6th episode. I would say this is my second favorite match in NWA Power to date. My favorite being Tim Storm and Nick Aldis from the first show. But I thought this match was pretty good. Nice solid title match between two guys that I really like. Got a title change out of it with Colt Cabana winning the belt and setting up James Storm to eventually go on to challenge Nick Aldis for the World Heavyweight title at Into the Fire. More on that later. But just thought it was a nice, solid, enjoyable match that fit the format of the NWA Power Studio format. And I really enjoyed it. So good stuff. Number 9, Rey Fenix versus Nick Jackson from the November 20th episode of AEW Dynamite. Nice, crazy, athletic match. And the real appeal for me here is that I saw Fenix and Pentagon in Lucha Underground, and I love them as single stars in Lucha Underground. And they're great as a team, and I like them as a team, but I like them more as single stars. So anytime they get a chance to shine, I'm kind of on board with it. So, especially Pentagon. I think Pentagon could be a game changer if they ran with him as a single star. Let him be what he was in Lucha Underground. I think he could be amazing. But, this was just a nice, cool match to see. It was nice to see Fenix get to do his thing in a singles format. And it was nice to see one of the Young Bucks get to do something outside of the usual tag team format. It was just a nice, cool, fun match, and I enjoyed it. Number 8, Kenta defending the Never Openweight Championship against Tomohiro Ishii from New Japan Power Struggle 2019. As you would expect, a great match out of these two. I typically like Never Openweight title matches. That goes all the way back to Wrestle Kingdom 9, back when I watched that show. And I think Kenta has had a fairly successful run in New Japan thus far. I'll be very interested to see what they do with the Never Openweight title at Wrestle Kingdom. We don't have a match set up yet, but more on that later. But yeah, I just thought the match was really good, really enjoyable, and Kenta continues to go on strong. Number 7, Adam Cole versus Daniel Bryan for the NXT Championship from the November 1st episode of Smackdown. So I guess you could say the first really good match of the month. Really good main event that really jump-started the whole NXT invasion angle heading into Survivor Series and getting that whole brand superiority thing underway. To that end, it was effective. I thought the match was really good, as one would expect out of these two. And it was a nice change of pace from the usual Raw or SmackDown match. Just very enjoyable. I really liked it. Number 6, Teddy Hart defending the MLW Middleweight Championship against Austin Aries from MLW Saturday Night Superfight. I said in my review of this show that I was not really a huge fan of both guys back when they were first starting to get noticed in like 03 and 04. I was like, I don't really see it in them. And it took me Teddy Hart I was never that big of a fan of, and Austin Aries, it took me a while to really get on board with him, and even then it was like, yeah, he's not as good as he thinks he is, but he's pretty good. He's not like the best man in the world like he thinks he is, but they went out there and had a really good match with a very good story, clear-cut heel, clear-cut face, obstacles for the face to overcome, and the face won, and I was like, okay, nice, simple, cool, really good stuff. Much better match than I would have expected, because I think when you see these two names, you expect kind of a spot festy type of match, but that's not what this was. It was just a very well-told wrestling story, and I was like, oh my god, look at that. Look at them go. Now, right before I filmed this video, I read that Teddy Hart actually got released from MLW, which is it weird to say that I'm kind of disappointed, because I kind of wanted to see more of him after watching this match, and it's like, oh well. They hired ACH, which I'm like, uh-oh, that might not turn out the way you want it to, but maybe, hopefully ACH gets his, his lesser tendencies under control, but time will tell. Number 5, Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin from the November 20th episode of AEW Dynamite. This is probably my favorite match that they've done on Dynamite so far, since they've debuted on TNT. A great match. Both guys meshed very, very well. And the match was so good that it made me kind of want to see a full-fledged program between these two. Darby Allin right now is a guy, he's kind of like in that weird spot where it's like, all right, they want to push him. They got him over. He had a really good match with Cody, had a really good match with Jericho, and now he's had his best match, in my opinion, with Jon Moxley. It's like, okay, so you're getting him to a point where he's like, okay, he's getting noticed, but he doesn't have that hot program, and he doesn't have that big win under his belt to really kind of cement him as one of the top guys in AEW. So hopefully they've got something for him, because I think they've tapped into something pretty good with him. And I think he's kind of like this guy that was really an unknown. I'd never heard of him until he went to AEW, and he's really getting some attention. It's like, man, whoever did the scouting in AEW, because you look at NXT and all the indie guys that WWE picked up, it's like, man, who are they going to get for their roster? And they found some diamonds in the rough, like MJF and Darby Allin and Luchasaurus and all, Orange Cassidy, and these guys that can get over. And I'm like, I'd either barely seen them before or never heard of them, and then you put them on the stage and they do well for themselves. It's like, hey, can't complain with it if it doesn't, I can't complain if it works. So I thought Moxley and Allin had a great match, and I look forward to seeing more out of those two in the future. Number 4, Tomasso Ciampa, Kevin Owens, Keith Lee, and Dominik Dijakovic versus the Undisputed Era. Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly in a War Games match from NXT TakeOver War Games 2019. This is the best War Games match I think WWE has done since they started doing these things for the NXT brand. And I've had my misgivings about doing the War Games as an annual thing. I feel like, because even, Jim Crockett Promotion and WCW struggled with it back in the day, because it's like, finding a way to justify doing that match every year is really, really hard. And the format, it's hard. It's done in a way where it's very hard to do that and make it feel natural. And that was something where I felt like the women's match kind of struggled with, where it's like Shayna getting a bunch of people and Rhea Ripley just getting a bunch of people. And there wasn't a whole lot of justification for a War Games match outside of, hey, let's just do it. And again, it would have made more sense story-wise if they had used Shayna's teammates, Jessamine Duke and Shafir, but they didn't do that. So it was just kind of like, oh, so they're just doing it just to do one. But here it's like, all right, you have the Undisputed Era who's a stable, and it's like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense at least. And they've been kind of running roughshod on NXT since for a while now. So this one made a little bit more sense. And I thought they took full advantage of the two ring. You had Kevin Owens being the surprise entrant to add a little extra flavor to things and a little extra layer of excitement. You had that finish, which was scary as fuck, but thankfully came off really, really well. And thank God they let the big spot be the finish, because it's like, Jesus Christ, what's going to top that? So yeah, I was very entertained by this match. I thought it was very, very good. And yeah, it deserved the praise that it got. I thought it was the best match that weekend of both Survivor Series and TakeOver. By far. I thought it was by far. Nothing else on both shows matched up to it, in my opinion. Number 3, Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley in the Lights Out Unsanctioned match from AEW Full Gear. The controversial match, which apparently is getting AEW investigated by the Maryland Athletic State Commission or something like that, which is, I don't know, still sounds weird to me, because it's like, dude, I have seen way more violent matches in pro wrestling. From WWE, I have seen more violent matches, but it's like, hey, whatever, I guess it's just the way things are now. But I thought the match was very good, very intense, wild, hardcore war of a match that lived up to what they were promising and what the build-up was. So I was okay with it. I had no real major issues with it. I was entertained by it, and I thought both guys meshed together really well. So, number 2, the match I actually preferred, though, Chris Jericho with Jake Hager in his corner defending the AEW World Championship against Cody with MJF in his corner, also from Full Gear. Great, well done title match. Loved it. He had the added stipulation that if Cody didn't win, he wouldn't go for the AEW title ever again. And, all this great story intrigue and drama with MJF thrown in and that big finish where he turned on Cody. All of that was really well done, and I thought both guys lived up to the hype, because that was a really well-built match on Dynamite, and I thought the match delivered and was the best part of the Full Gear pay-per-view. So kudos to them. I thought it was great. But my favorite match of the month, and this one might surprise you, Jacob Fatu with Josef Samael defending the MLW World Championship against LA Park with Salina de la Renta in a no disqualification match from MLW Saturday Night Superfight. When I thought about the matches that I enjoyed the most from November, this was actually the first one that popped into my head. I was like, this was a lot of fun. I really liked this match. Wild brawl. Violence, you had the managers getting involved, which made for a lot of fun. You had Jacob Fatu, I had never really watched before in any kind of significant capacity, and I was like, wow, this guy's pretty good, and he can brawl, he can hang, he can, do all this cool stuff and have a really good main event. And LA Park, who's in his 50s at this point, I'm looking at him, I was like, man, boy can still go, look at that. And I guess, and I had complained in the past about, old guys winning belts, and, Jacob Fatu retained the title here, but, I'd complained about old guys winning belts, and more on that later. We'll get to that. But, I guess when you look at guys like Jericho, who's having one of the best runs of his career right now, when you look at someone like Minoru Suzuki, who is still the scariest man in pro wrestling, and he's in, he's mid-50s, and still delivering. He had that great match with Liger not too long ago. I'm like, I guess age is just a number, and as long as you can still go, and as long as you can still deliver and get over with the crowd and all that stuff, it's like, who am I to say you can't still keep going? Now, there are cases where it's like, no, you're too old and you need to stop. Again, more on that later. But, if you can still keep delivering up to this level, who am I to say no to you? And I thought LA Park and Jacob Fatu had a hell of a match. I really enjoyed it, and it was my favorite match of the month of November. Who'd have thought? So, that concludes that. So that's the top 10 matches. We'll take that list down. And now let's focus on the previewing of the December pay-per-views and a couple of January pay-per-views as well. I want to have all my bases covered. And we're going to start with the one that is happening next Sunday on the 15th. WWE Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2019. Now, I can't really preview this card because we are less than 10 days away from this pay-per-view, and there are 0 matches set up. I am looking at the Wikipedia page right now. I looked at it last night, so it's been a day since I last looked at it, and it's like, okay, I did take one of this video, and I reamed it horribly. It's like, okay, they had an extra day to put something down, and no, nothing has changed since I last filmed the video, and it's just, there is absolutely no card for Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, and it's less than 10 days away. You've got 2 Smackdowns and 1 Raw to cobble something together. Now, I haven't been watching Raw and Smackdown because I just flat out don't want to, and it's like with all the other wrestling I'm watching, MLW Fusion, NWA Power, Impact, and then of course AEW Dynamite and AEW Dark, NXT. With all the wrestling I've been watching, it's like, fuck, I don't have time for Raw and SmackDown. I don't want to watch Raw and SmackDown because every time I watch them, I just get miserable and bored. And who wants that? I mean, if I'm not going to make time for 205 Live and NXT UK, I'm not making time for Raw and SmackDown. That's just not going to happen. There are only so many wrestling shows I can watch, and I'm not going to watch the ones that I know I'm going to hate. But even though I'm not watching them, I do know I can extrapolate from what I've heard and what people have told me. I can extrapolate matches from what's being done on TV. It's like, okay, so we're probably going to get Lashley versus Rusev. That'll probably be the chairs match. By the way, I hate chairs matches. That's a dumb gimmick. We're probably going to get Kevin Owens versus Seth in some type of match, either a tables match, probably the tables match if I had to guess. It's, and I'm sure they'll cobble something together for a TLC match or something, but, TLC, it's one of those gimmicky pay-per-views that I personally can't stand. Most of the time, I think I hate TLC. I can't remember too many that I enjoyed. AJ and Ambrose had a TLC match that was really good, but other than that, I can't really recall too many that were, like, really worth going out of my way to see. In some cases, they were downright horrible, like the one where they added stairs to the mix, which is probably, like, adding a stairs match to the TLC pay-per-view was like the equivalent of adding the Emperor to the new Star Wars movie. It's lazy and desperate. Two things you don't want to come off as. But thank God no more stairs matches, because that was fucking dumb. But it's a pay-per-view that I'm not a huge fan of because of the overly gimmicked aspect of it, but it's like, all right, you're supposed to have ladder matches, you're supposed to have a TLC match, you're supposed to have chairs and tables and all this other stuff. So you got to have like long stories in place to really justify these gimmick matches, much like you would a Hell in a Cell, and they haven't done that, except for Lashley and Rusev, which everyone hates. So it's like, what is going on with this company? And you know what it is? They run too many pay-per-views, and I've been saying it for years, and I've been complaining about oversaturation in WWE for years and years and years now, since before I was doing this channel, and that was back in 2010. Oversaturation is a problem, and since then, Raw's gone to 3 hours, the pay-per-views are longer, they do more pay-per-views. It's just too fucking much, and they run too many goddamn shows, and it's like, look, they did the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which is a similar situation to this, where it's like, all right, it's a gimmick-heavy pay-per-view that I don't like, but you got to work to really justify those gimmicks. Whether or not they accomplish that, I'll leave up to you. That's a different discussion. Go watch my review of that show. But, sorry, so you got to go hot and heavy into Hell in a Cell by design. Then you started the interbrand war thing, so you had to go hot and heavy into Survivor Series. There was the detour with the Saudi Arabia show, which, that whole fiasco, I'm not going to go into that again. And now it's like you ran, I'm not going to count Starrcade because that was basically just a free house show that they showed on the network, but it's, all right, so there's all that going on, and now we're less than 2 weeks removed from Survivor Series, and here we are. They've got to rush to TLC, and they've got to rush and scramble to put something out there, anything, for fuck's sake, and it's like, guys, do you really need a pay-per-view in December? I know they set up the pay-per-view schedules beforehand, but thinking into 2020, it's like, okay, think to yourself, do you really need a pay-per-view in December? Like, once you wrap up Survivor Series, shouldn't your main focus be Royal Rumble at that point, just building up to the Royal Rumble and getting ready for WrestleMania season? And I've said it before with WrestleMania season, do you really need a pay-per-view in February? Can't you just go from Rumble to WrestleMania and be okay? Because I think this oversaturation is really cutting their stories short. I think it's shortchanging a lot of their stories. Because you either get a bunch of rushed builds where the matches don't mean as much as they could, or you get a shit ton of rematches because it's show on top of show on top of show on top of show. So by the time you get to the final burn-off, you're just sick and tired of it because I've already seen the match 12 times. See, this is where New Japan did it right with Omega and Okada. They got 3 matches out of them. Four if you count the G1 Climax. They got 4 matches out of them over the course of a year and a half, and it was awesome, and we all loved it. And it was fantastic, but it's that creating anticipation for things, and it's hard to create anticipation for things when you're constantly scrambling to throw a card together. It's pathetic. It's one of the advantages that NXT typically has over Raw and SmackDown, where it's like they run TakeOver specials once every few months, and they're able to build things a little bit better that way. So it's borrow from NXT, your own fucking show. It's under your brand. It is a WWE show. Just do that for the other shows, and you'll probably be okay. But actually, now that they've got 3 brands, they basically set up NXT as like the official 3rd brand. It's like, dude, just do like 1 month do a Raw show, 1 month do a SmackDown show, then 1 month do an NXT show, and then just trade off. Like, come on, it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. You can have a lot more easier way to build into your... Oh, by the way, I forgot, for the top 10 matches, I forgot to list my brand of the month. I'm giving it to NXT because, they took back a little bit of control during the ratings war by winning 2 weeks over AEW. Didn't win this week, but it was closer to even this time, and it's... they created a little bit more intrigue with the inter-brand war and winning at Survivor Series and all of that. So, good stuff's going on NXT, and so that was, they get a thumbs up for me for being the brand of the month. So that's my pick there. But, going back to TLC, it's really hard for me to preview a show when there are no matches. And they're going to have to scramble to put matches together to justify them. I wouldn't be surprised if you get to a point where matches are announced on the pre-show the day of the show, because there's just so little time to do a bunch of stuff. And it's like, why the fuck am I going to watch the show if it's like they're not even taking the time to really put effort into making me care about it? When, again, we're less than 10 days away and there are no matches lined up. That is absolutely pathetic, especially when I compare it to the other companies. Wrestle Kingdom, which is a 2-night event, less than a month away, has at least the bulk of both of their shows. There's some more matches that are going to be announced, but they've got at least half of their matches, most of the big ones, pretty much lined up already. So it's like, okay, great. Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill. They've got 3 matches lined up already, and that show's not happening until January 12th. So they've got a long time to go before, they have to have a full card lined up, but they at least have 3 matches already. And it's like, okay, good for them, including their big main event, which has garnered some like buzz and attention. So, again, good for them. They've actually shown that they're preparing shit. And WWE, it just always feels like a mad dash to get to the next pay-per-view. And it's like, guys, you can cut the fuck back, for fuck's sake. Your shows would be so much better if you just paced yourselves. And it's it's really like just this over excess. It reminds me so much of what WCW became, where it just became too much. And how they basically oversaturated themselves into irrelevancy. And that's, at least in my mind, that's what WWE's doing for me. Where I can't speak for the greater populace, but for me personally, it's like I can't waste my time on Raw or SmackDown anymore. I just can't. It's just, they ask too much of me. Especially when I have so many other options to get my wrestling fix out there these days. So, so those are my thoughts on TLC. Am I going to watch it? Probably not. Why bother? It's like they didn't bother to promote the damn thing and make it worth watching, so why should I give a shit? So, from there, we move on to Ring of Honor's final pay-per-view of 2019. We're going to be talking about Final Battle, which is kind of the Starrcade / WrestleMania for Ring of Honor, in that it's supposed to be their biggest show of the year. And, I mean, I've talked about it before. Ring of Honor is a dumpster fire right now, especially when you consider all the backstage shit that's going on with Kelly Klein getting fired for no good reason, just because she spoke out against some of the shit they were doing. It's like, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. And it ain't looking good. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It bears repeating. It's like they had literally the biggest show in company history, WrestleMania weekend of this year. They sold out MSG, and yes, the Elite had a lot to do with that. The promise of the Elite being there, and then ultimately they weren't there because they were getting AEW started up, and they left Ring of Honor. But yeah, I understand that had a lot to do with it. I also understand New Japan had something to do with it, but it was still the biggest show in company history, and you would think that they'd be able to have some kind of rush of momentum after that. And they have done nothing but sink like a rock ever since. There is absolutely no intrigue in Ring of Honor right now. And MLW right now is basically just a better version of Ring of Honor. It is sad, depressing, and I mean, right now I would say Ring of Honor is probably worse than Impact was in its Destination America days. That's how bad we're getting here. Like, this has become like almost unwatchable. And it's not to say they don't have talented guys. It's just that the show has no intrigue. The build-ups are poor. Attendance is way down, which is killing the atmosphere of the shows. It just feels like a dying brand. And I don't want them to die. I don't want, especially considering how long they've been around, but it's just, it's a fiasco right now. And I'm looking at this card. This just feels like the most random crap just thrown up against the screen just to have a card for the pay-per-view, which is happening on the 13th, so next Friday. I'm going over this. We've got Angelina Love versus Maria Manic. I don't know Maria Manic that well. I've seen her do her run-ins in Ring of Honor a couple of times, but I don't really know anything that much about her. Angelina Love was someone I liked quite a bit, actually, back in her TNA days when she was part of the Beautiful People. I thought she was a really great heel, great on the stick, and great at getting heat. And I thought they had something there with them. But, you know, the whole Kelly Klein situation has really kind of soured the entire Women of Honor division, especially since Kelly Klein was the champion. So this is probably going to get turned into like a Women of Honor title match to win the vacant title. I guess Maria Manic wins. I don't know. I don't really care. That's just the situation that we have right now. Next up, we have Jeff Cobb versus Dan Maff, who I have not heard that name in a dog's age. I didn't know he was still working. I'll go with Jeff Cobb to win. Yeah. Then we have Marty Scurll's, I guess, one of Marty Scurll's unofficial farewell matches. He's also going to be working the TV tapings a couple nights later, but Villain Enterprises, Marty Scurll and Flip Gordon taking on Bandito and Flamita. I look to Marty Scurll to lose here and ultimately leave the company and go to AEW. If he does not go to AEW, I'll be shocked, because I'm sure that Cody and the Bucks have had a spot waiting for him ever since AEW was conceived. It's like, dude, when your contract runs out, we got you. You're coming to AEW. And I would be shocked if he didn't show up there. But I don't anticipate him winning this match at all. It's probably why he's not in the main event of this pay-per-view, because he's leaving. That's my understanding. That's how I perceive the situation. Next, for the Ring of Honor World Television title, which is probably the best-looking match on the show, just from an athletic... I was like, all right, this could be a fun athletic match standpoint. Shane Taylor defending the title against Dragon Lee. I'm going to look for Shane Taylor to retain, and these two to have like a nice clashing of styles type of match. I think it'll be fun for that. I like both guys enough. So it'll probably be the most entertaining match on the show. Next up, we have a random as fuck grudge match. They basically had to break up the kingdom just to get a grudge match on the show. Matt Taven versus the former Vince Marcellia, now Vincent. Vinny turned on Matt Taven, and now it's like the kingdom explodes, I guess you could say. It's, yeah, I don't really care. I don't really care. And that's no knock on either guy. This feels like something that they rushed together just to have a match on the show. And, yeah. I'll pick Vincent to win just to continue, like, a heel run, I guess. But, yeah, no intrigue here. None at all. Speaking of no intrigue, we have Mark Haskins versus Bully Ray in a street fight. I'll pick Bully Ray to win, but I don't really care. I like the stuff that Bully Ray did with Flip Gordon, but once that was over, I was kind of hoping that it would be over. And nope, he's still going. Still chugging along here, doing the same shit. It's like, okay, whatever. Then we have for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship, the Briscoe brothers defending against Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham. Didn't Gresham already turn on Lethal, or did I imagine that? I don't remember. Fuck it. I haven't been keeping up with the show because the show's unwatchable. The show is that bad. But it's, I guess this could be a good match too, given who's involved in it. I'll pick the Briscoes to retain and Jay and Jonathan Gresham's issues to boil over and cause them to lose. That'll be my guess here. And then in the weirdest, most random main event I think I've seen in a long time, Roosh is taking on PCO. Now, I like Roosh for what he is. I probably wouldn't have put a world title on him, but I do kind of like him. And PCO, I think it's great that Pierre has had a career rejuvenation. I love the gimmick. I love what he's done with the gimmick. I think he's done really, really well. I guess another example of like, dude, he's in his 50s, but he managed to completely reinvent himself and has done really well with it. And I think that's commendable. And I think good for him. Absolutely good for him. This main event still looks random as fuck and doesn't look like the payoff to a story, but rather a fuck it, we gotta have a world title match on the show. And it's like, man, wow. Random as fuck. I would, at this point, just fuck it. Just put the title on PCO. Why not? But who the hell knows? There is nothing on this show that I'm like, man, do I want to go out of my way to see this? Probably not. And I looked at the price tag for the pay-per-view. It is $35. I'm like, fuck you. I am not paying $35 for this show. The show is also happening in the same venue that I saw Ring of Honor pay-per-view at about a year and a half ago. And that was when, Cody and the Bucks were still there and the Elite was there. And we were getting ready for All In. And it was like an exciting time to watch Ring of Honor. They felt like the legitimate number 2. And then all this has changed in just a year and a half. It's like, wow, how far they've sunk back. Because back then I was like, guys, we're going to a Ring of Honor show. This is going to be great. Now it's like, I haven't even thought to ask anybody to go. Because, like, why bother? Like, I'm not going to waste my time on this. So it's like, I don't want to go to the show, even though it's, like, technically in my backyard. And I don't want to, because I'm actually, in my new condo, I actually live closer to the venue now than I did previously. I don't want to go. I have no desire to go. And I'm not paying a $35 price tag for the pay-per-view. That's how bad Ring of Honor has gotten. It's like, even though it's convenient for me to go, I do not want to go. And I'm sure as hell not paying a $35 price tag to watch it on pay-per-view. NWA Into the Fire, I'll pay $20 for that. AEW pay-per-view, I'll pay $50 for that because A, I'm typically splitting it with people, and B, I actually enjoy the show. And it's like, I'll put my money towards something that I actually enjoy. So, yeah, that's that. So that's enough talk about Final Battle. This show looks like a disaster, and I don't want to watch it. So, moving on from there, we have NWA Into the Fire, their first major event since starting NWA Power. And it's like, all right, this is going to be interesting. And it looks like, I'm looking at the wiki page right now, and it's like, okay, it looks like the venue's going to be in the studio where they hold NWA Power. And I'm like, that's going to be a little weird because it works great for the format of the TV show or, well, YouTube show that they're doing. But it's going to look weird on a pay-per-view. It's going to look really, really small scale. So hopefully that doesn't impact the pay-per-view. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. But I am interested in seeing the show just to see what they deliver. I've been enjoying NWA Power. True, last couple of weeks they've lost a lot of momentum, what with the Jim Cornette situation, the clip show episode that they did, which was really weird. So they've lost a little momentum, but I'm still going to check the show out just to see what happens. We've got Bad News Barrett as the color commentator. That's interesting. Be interesting to see where that goes and how they do with that. I guess he's, can't be the big baddie on Lucha Underground because that show's been canceled. So now he can go ahead and be on NWA Power. So that's really cool. So we've got that. But going over the card, we've got 6 matches lined up. First up, we have the question mark, the accident, the surprise hit of NWA Power, taking on Trevor Murdoch. I expect this to be fun because question mark is just over with the crowd right now, and it's just the funny thing. He's basically like the Damien Mizdow to Damien Sandow right now. It's like Damien Sandow of Aaron Stevens is now playing the Miz, and question mark is his Mizdow. It's really funny how that kind of played out. But anyway, yeah, I'll pick question mark to win. I think this match is going to be like fun goofball match, and that's cool. That's fine. I'm cool with that. Then we have the women's tag match. Champion Allison Kay, formerly Sienna of Impact, and Ashley Vox versus 2/3 of the following team. Either Melina, Thunder Rosa, or Marty Bell. And this is something that has been brewing over the last, through most of the entirety of NWA Power, where it's more and more women get added to this whole situation. Then you have Melina, Thunder Rosa, and Marty Bell who form the stable against Allison Kay. So I think this will be, it'll be a fine match. It's not a title match. There aren't any major stakes in it. But I think if they want this match to have any kind of impact, they'd have Melina be one of the active participants in the match because I haven't seen her wrestle in a long time. So it'd be, okay, that's cool that, you get that little attraction there that Melina gets to have a match. So I'm going to pick Melina's faction to win through some kind of cheap tactic and set up a women's title match down the road. between Allison Kay and either Thunder Rosa or Melina. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to pick the heels to win this match. Next up, we have Eli Drake, dummy, yeah, taking on Ken Anderson. Yeah, these are two guys that always kind of like... Well, first of all, they're known for their mouths and their speaking abilities. That's number one. But number two, they're always like guys that I feel like should have been more than what they became. Like Eli Drake is somebody I thought was a diamond in the rough in Impact Wrestling, one of the unsung heroes, and never really reached... I mean, I guess in Impact you can only go so far, but you know, he's a guy I thought for sure WWE would try to pick up, and that just didn't happen. And here he is. He's getting another opportunity on NWA Power, and I think he shined on that show because in the studio format, you excel when you talk, and he's done great at it. And then you have Ken Anderson, who's a guy that probably would have been WWE champion had he not run into some issues and made some bad decisions. So here he is getting another chance, and we'll see how it goes. I think this could be an interesting match. I'm going to pick Eli Drake to win. But I'm looking forward to seeing this just because I want to see Eli Drake do well because I am a fan of the guy, admittedly. Now we have our 3 title matches. For the NWA Tag Team Championship, we've got champions, the Rock and Roll Express, taking on the wild cards. That's Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, and Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs. Yeah, remember what I said earlier about guys being too old and whether or not too old, you know, age is just a number, and, you know, who am I to tell guys they need to retire if they can still go? Yeah, I remember watching the Rock and Roll Express in a match back in 2003. It was against AEW during the TNA weekly pay-per-view format. And they looked old as fuck back then. And I look at them now, it's like, dude, they look like everybody's grandpas. They look old. They look so old. And now they're the tag team champions. And I'm like, I mean, I know that NWA Power is a show that sells itself on nostalgia and longing for like the old school studio format, but these guys are in their 60s, and can they still go to the degree that they did, or even like half the degree that they did back in the 80s? No, they can't. Personally, I thought AEW used them effectively. It's like they used them to get beat down, and then they I think I just got a package delivery, but anyway, they use them to get beat down, and they use them to run in and help the faces, but they didn't put a belt on them, and it's like, this just seems ridiculous that they have a belt, and they look so old. They look so old, and it's like, and they look every bit their age, and their ring work reflects their age, and it's like, oh my God. So I'm looking for the wild cards to win the titles back here, and this is just a nostalgia pop thing, and then it's gonna pass, and then they're gonna move on to something else. But I would have rather Homicide and Eddie Kingston get a run at the tag titles, but that's just me. Eddie Kingston, hell of a talker. Again, the talkers seem to really excel on NWA Power. But anyway, then we have for the NWA National Championship, a triple threat match, Colt Cabana defending against Aaron Stevens and Ricky Sparks. I think Aaron Stevens has been one of the best parts of NWA Power. I think I've really enjoyed a lot of the stuff that he's done. I thought the 2 out of 3 falls match that he had with Ricky Starks came off really well. I thought his promos are really entertaining, and he's this really perfect shit heel. And now you have all 3 elements. You've got like Colt Cabana, who the new fresh champion that just beat James Storm. And you have like the pure wrestler guy who's Ricky Starks, a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and then you've got Aaron Stevens, who's like the you know, the shit heel, like the one, like the slimy, sneaky piece of shit that is probably going to find a way to sneak his way to win this match. I'll pick Colt Cabana to retain, but I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Stevens won the title either. So this could be fun. I think this could be a lot of fun. You know, Colt Cabana and Aaron Stevens are 2 guys that know how to have fun in there, and I think Ricky Starks will add a little bit more athleticism to the match. So I think this could be pretty good. But then finally, we have the main event for the NWA World Championship, a 2 out of 3 falls match between champion Nick Aldis and Cowboy James Storm, with the added stipulation that both men can pick their own referees. James Storm picked Brian Hebner for his fall. Nick Aldis picked Tim Storm for his fall. And for the 3rd fall, a coin will be flipped, and whoever wins the coin toss, their referee will referee the 3rd fall. This is going to be really good old school type of NWA title match with all the little like things like the referee situation. Will Tim Storm turn on Nick Aldis as revenge for beating him on the first episode? We'll see. Will Camille play some kind of a role where she costs Nick Aldis the title? Maybe. I don't know. They seem to be implying that. We'll see. We'll see how that all goes, but I'm really looking forward to this match. I think it's going to be like a great old school style of match. I'm going to pick Nick Aldis to retain unless something screwy happens and they go with James Storm to win the title in some kind of screwy fashion. But overall, I am really excited for the show. It's more like a curiosity because I've been watching NWA Power, and it's like I want to see how this turns out and what they do. And again, one final plug: like pre-order is $19.99, a reduced price. So I'd say this is probably going to be worth $20. So if you're interested, you've got one more day to go in there and pre-order the pay-per-view. And it's happening next Saturday, December the 14th. So we'll see how that all goes. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And now let's get into the January shows. We've got New Japan Pro Wrestling big Tokyo Dome event, Wrestle Kingdom 14, which has now been split into a 2-night event. Something that I've advocated WrestleMania doing. It's like, look, if you're going to be 7 hours long, you might as well just be two nights. And Wrestle Kingdom is doing that. And they've got some big stuff lined up already. We don't have the full card set. We've got 5 matches for the 2 shows. And I imagine at least 3 more matches will be added. At least 2 to 3 more matches will be added to both events. But what we have so far, I think, is really good. And actually, they've added this match has been added since I filmed the video last night. There's going to be an IWGP tag title match, which I figured was going to happen. But I also figured there's going to be a never openweight title match. I know some people are counting on Kenta versus Shibata. I doubt that'll happen just because of Shibata's condition. But I think we'll probably get Kenta versus Goto with Shibata in Goto's corner. I think that's probably what we're going to get. But maybe if Shibata's going to work, maybe we'll get a tag match with Goto and Shibata taking on Kenta and like, I don't know, Ishimori or something like that, but we'll see. But anyway, it's a 2-night event, and they've got some huge things lined up that have got me very intrigued for it. So let me start off with night 1. We have an 8-man tag that's basically a Legends match. It's Jushin Thunder Liger, WWE Hall of Famer Tatsumi Fujinami, The Great Sasuke, and Tiger Mask taking on Naoki Sano, Shinjiro Otani, Tatsuhito Takaiwa, and Rasuke Taguchi, who might be the youngest guy in the match, and I think he's 40 years old. So a lot of old names in this match. It's basically a Legends match. It's part of Liger's farewell tour, I guess, and I think it's Liger wanting to work with some of the Legends one last time before he rides off into the sunset. So to that end, I guess I'm okay with it. I don't expect much out of this match. I don't think it's going to be something that sets the world on fire or gets people talking. It's just going to be a nice, simple match as part of Liger's farewell and a little more than that. Liger's team will probably win this match, and then Liger will lose his retirement match the next night. More on that in a second. But, so that's for the 8-man tag match. Then we have the IWGP tag titles on the line. The Guerrillas of Destiny will be taking on opponents that are yet to be determined. So we know the match is happening. We just don't know who their opponents are. Should be interesting. I really like the Guerrillas of Destiny. I think they've really come into their own as a tag team, and I really like watching them work. I just look forward to seeing the Guerrillas of Destiny, regardless of who they end up facing. So we'll see how that goes. I'll pick them to retain the titles here. We also have a singles match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Will Ospreay defending against Hiromu Takahashi. Welcome back, Hiromu. I'm glad that he was able to come back from injury. And I think this match could be great. I've seen these two have great matches before. And, with Takahashi coming back and getting back into the groove of things, I think this match could be really good. Ospreay is one of those guys that I think just keeps getting better and better and better every time I watch him. So, I think this could turn out really well. I will pick Ospreay to retain, but I wouldn't be surprised if Takahashi won the belt anyway. But yeah, if you like cruiserweight junior style action, this match will be for you. And then we've got the biggies. 2 big championship matches. For the Intercontinental title, we've got Jay White defending against Tetsuya Naito. And for the world title, we've got Okada, my boy, the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada, defending against the G1 Climax winner Kota Ibushi. Now, both of these matches are significant and will have major implications for Night 2. But right here, it's like, all right, 2 big title matches that are, again, going to play into what happens in Night 2. So thinking ahead and what I think is going to happen at Night 2 and what are the best outcomes for Night 2, I think Naito's going to beat Jay White. And I think, now Okada's a weird one to predict because Okada's like a Brock Lesnar in a sense where it's like, even when you feel like he's going to lose, most of the time he wins, and then sometimes he loses when you think he's going to win. Like last year when he faced Jay White at Wrestle Kingdom. Had the match of the night. I thought it was great, but I was like, holy shit, Jay White won? And there are other times where you feel like Okada might lose, like against Naito, and he won. So it's kind of like that Brock Lesnar feel where you don't really know if Okada's going to win or not. And that makes the match more intriguing, quite honestly. But here I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, I can see Okada winning, but Ibushi has always been one of those guys that's like on the outside looking in, so close to breaking through and making it to that top tier level. And now he's got it. He's got his title match. He won the G1 Climax. He's going to win, right? Like, he's going to win. I mean, this is going to be his night in the sun. He wins the world title and then heads into Night 2 as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So I'm going to pick Ibushi to win, and I'm going to pick Naito to win the IC title, which will then carry over into Night 2. I'll talk about that now. With Night 2, we have the following matches. We have a tag team match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Bullet Club members Taiji Ishimori and El Fantasmo taking on Roppongi 3K. I think that should be a really good athletic type of tag match. I'll pick Roppongi 3K to win the titles, just to have a title change on the show. We also have the loser of Okada versus Ibushi from Night 1 taking on the loser of White versus Naito from Night 1. So if my predictions are correct, we'll be getting Kazuchika Okada versus Jay White in a rematch. And I'll pick Okada to win as a way to kind of like put him ahead in the series because he won the rematch at MSG, but this will put him ahead of White. And then I guess this will be like an unofficial number 1 contenders match. More on that in a bit. And then the first real like major attraction for Night 2, the retirement match of Jushin Thunder Liger. We don't know who his opponent is yet. I wish they had just saved the match with Suzuki for this show. I think that would have been a great retirement match for him. But in any case, this is going to be Jushin Thunder Liger's final match. And I'm not going to lie, I might cry when the match is over because Liger, again, talking what I said about guys like needing to walk away when they get too old or when they don't look like themselves. And I think in Liger's case, he hides a lot of it by wearing a bodysuit and the mask, which looks cool. But Liger was one of the first Japanese wrestlers that I became a fan of. I've been watching, and I've said it before, but I've been watching old Nitros on the network, and it was just such a delight to see him have the first match in Nitro history with Brian Pillman. It was like, oh man, great stuff, cool. And Liger is somebody I've been a fan of for a long time, and never really, he's always been capable in there. And he's always, even when it looked like he was going to slow down, then he would come up and have a match like the one he just had with Suzuki, where it's like, oh my God, old man can still go. And Liger has been a wonderful credit to the art form of pro wrestling. A lot of fun to watch. Means a lot to Japanese fans, obviously. Means a lot to a lot of American fans who have followed his work. And I think he's one of the most influential talents in the last 2 or 3 decades, for sure. And he deserves all the accolades and all the credit that he gets. And for this to be his final match, I am not missing Liger's final match. I will absolutely be watching Wrestle Kingdom. I'm looking at it. Okay, so Night 1 is on January 4th, as per usual, for the Dome show. So Night 2 will be on January 5th. And I am absolutely watching Jushin Thunder Liger's final match. And again, I might cry by the time it's over. He's probably going to lose, regardless. Again, I wish they had an opponent lined up. But I guess I wouldn't care who his opponent is because it's like, I just want to see Liger's final match, and I'm not missing that. So that's one of the major appeals of Night 2 for me is the final match of Jushin Thunder Liger, and I'm really looking forward to it, even though I know I'm going to be sad. Then we have Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Chris Jericho. This is funny because it's, Le Champion of AEW. And, he's worked with Okada, did really well. Jericho has worked with Naito, obviously did really good stuff with him. And it's like Tanahashi's like the last really big one that he can work with. So I don't know if this is like Jericho's like last hurrah with New Japan. I don't know. Or maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's the sign of like an interpromotional deal between AEW and New Japan, because that would be cool. I don't know how casual fans would feel, but if they did a New Japan invasion of AEW, I would lose my fucking shit. Or even flip it, like an AEW invasion of New Japan when they start running shows in the US, I would lose my shit. And maybe this match could be the genesis of that. Who knows? I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Fuck it. But as is, I think this is a really cool match to have. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good one. I'm going to pick Tanahashi to get the win, though. Or if Jericho wins, maybe that could be the jump starter, again, of the whole invasion angle that I just mapped out. But again, we'll see how that all plays out. But finally, we have our main event. The IWGP Heavyweight Champion, whoever that is, from night one, either Ibushi or Okada, taking on the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, either Naito or Jay White. And if my predictions are correct, it's going to be Ibushi versus Naito, title for title. And I think Ibushi and Naito is the way to go because there's the most storyline potential there, because you have Ibushi, who is, as I said, glass ceiling guy, could never break through, and now he has a chance to walk out with both major championships in the main event of the Tokyo Dome. Holy shit, that would be huge. But you also have Naito, who resented getting bumped from the main event spot from that Wrestle Kingdom all those years ago, and has worked to redeem himself ever since that happened. So he's had resentment for the Intercontinental title, and he's had resentment for the people involved in putting him above, being put above him in the Wrestle Kingdom main event spot that he so desperately wants, and now he could get it and walk out with both major championships. So I think the way to go is Ibushi and Naito. I think that is absolutely the most interesting one they can do. I want to see it. I think it's going to be really, really good, and I'm going to pick Ibushi to walk out a double champion. We'll see how that all plays out. It could be Okada. Who knows? We could see Okada walk out with both belts. But I think the least likely of the four is Jay White. I don't see Jay White walking out with both belts. I can see Naito. I can see Ibushi. Okay, ranking it from most likely to least likely, I'm going to say Ibushi is most likely, Naito is second, then Okada, and then Jay White. But it's a very interesting situation and a perfect way to have like an evolving story from night one to night two. So it doesn't just feel like you're getting two really long shows. It's like there's an actual like evolving story going on here between the two shows. And it's like you're basically making both shows can't miss. And it's like, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. And I can't wait to see how this all plays out. So that's how I feel about Wrestle Kingdom. And again, we don't even have the full cards lined up and I'm already super stoked for it. And I really want to see what happens with the world and IC title situation, because I think that could be very, very intriguing. But again, we'll see. All right, and finally, I'm going to wrap it up with a quick talk about Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill, which is not happening until January 12th, so we've still got a ways away. But we have 3 matches lined up, and their main event is getting some buzz, so I do want to talk at least a little bit about it in case I don't have time to do so. 3 matches lined up for the X Division title. We've got Ace Austin taking on Trey Miguel. Sure, I mean, they're doing the angle right now where Ace Austin is trying to fuck his mom. And it's like, okay, but I don't get the Rascals. I've never understood the Rascals. I get that it's a That 70s Show reference. I just don't think they're funny. And they dedicated so much time to them. It's like, why are we giving so much time to these guys? They're not funny. And I don't get it. But in any case, so you have that match. You've got Brian Cage versus Rob Van Dam, which that could be interesting. And I think Rob Van Dam's new heel persona is at least... it makes him a little bit more intriguing than he has been in a long time. So I think it's a good change of pace for him. And hopefully these two mesh together really well and have a nice like clashing styles type of match. But the real talking point here is the main event. Sami Callihan defending the TNA or the Impact World Championship against Tessa Blanchard, a rematch from last year's Slammiversary. And this match I thought was going to be the main event to Bound for Glory, but it didn't happen. And yeah, I'm excited for this. I think Sami and Tessa are the two best things in Impact right now. I think Tessa is one of the women who can believably work with the men. Because I keep going back to this example, but when they had Scarlett Bordeaux do it, I was like, I don't buy that. And I felt like it went against Scarlett Bordeaux's whole presentation to do that. Jordan Grace can do it because she's, she looks like she could bench press 2 of me. She's as strong as an ox. It looks like she could believably work with the men. Tessa Blanchard is, a hoss and an athlete and a, great worker in her own right. She looks like she can hang with the men and did so quite well with Sami Callihan. I thought, and to show how good Tessa's been, her match with Gail Kim and her match with Sami Callihan, I thought were Impact's 2 best matches of the year, for sure. And I'm very intrigued in how this match is going to play out because I'm like, all right, could Tessa win the title here? That's very interesting. Very intriguing. I'm intrigued at the possibility that she might actually win. Maybe she won't. I don't know. But I could see it going either way. But it's an intriguing main event. And I think Tessa, she's one of the women that can do this believably and I think belongs in that spot. Again, it's a case-by-case thing. Not all women can believably hang with the men. When you put them together, it just looks ridiculous. Again, the Scarlett Bordeaux example, but you put Tessa in there with Sami Callihan, she looks like she can hang. She looks more athletic than Sami, to be perfectly honest. Because Sami's whole thing is that he's a rabid animal that just acts like a lunatic. So I think this could be a lot of fun. I'm very intrigued in seeing how this plays out. And it's like, all right, credit to Impact. They created a main event that I'm actually intrigued with and I want to see. So kudos to them. But, phew, I made it. Got this video filmed again. It was still almost an hour long. Hopefully the audio works this time when I render it. We'll see. But thank you again, everybody, for watching this video. Again, I apologize for what happened last night. But technical issues happen. It's a thing. But be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Hit the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. And keep on watching. I appreciate the support. But that is all I have for you now. And I'm going to have a few more videos lined up for you before I wrap it up for 2019. So stay tuned for more. But for right now, I am done. I will see you all later.